So, have you ever seen images like this one floating around? They show this strange, almost ethereal glow coming from the human body. And for years, people have claimed that this is it, actual proof of the human soul. But is it really? Well, let's follow the clues and see where the science actually takes us.
Okay, first things first, let's get one thing straight. Whatever this glow is, it is absolutely not just body heat. On the left, that's a typical thermal image. See how the heat is concentrated in the chest and core? But this other glow, it's most intense around the face. They're clearly two different things. So what in the world is going on? And this is where we get to the heart of the mystery. The strange light is visible in living people, but it seems to vanish completely after death. Now that apparent link between light and life, well, it led a lot of people to a pretty profound conclusion. This must be some kind of life force, an aura, or heck, maybe even the soul itself.
To really figure this out, we've got to treat it like a detective story and follow the clues. And our investigation doesn't start in some ancient text, but with a modern scientist who brought this century-old debate roaring back to life.
Meet Masaki Kobayashi. Back in 2009, his team in Japan used this unbelievably sensitive camera to capture these incredible images of the human body glowing. But here's the thing, he wasn't the first person to see this, not by a long shot. He was actually standing on the shoulders of a long-forgotten and pretty controversial giant of science.
To understand what Kobayashi accomplished, we actually have to jump in a time machine and go all the way back to the 1920s, to a Russian biologist who saw something that, at the time, absolutely nobody else believed.
Okay, so in 1923, a scientist named Alexander Gurwitch made this wild claim that living cells were communicating using some kind of invisible light, which he called mitogenic radiation. The problem? No one could replicate his work. He was ridiculed, his work was called pathological science, and he died with his reputation pretty much in tatters. But then, in 1962, his own daughter, Anna, got her hands on a brand new piece of tech, a photon counter, and she finally proved it. Her father was right all along. A faint light really was there.
And you know, Gurwich's original proof came from this brilliantly simple experiment with onions. Yeah, onions. He'd aim one growing onion root at another, but with a piece of quartz glass between them so no chemicals could pass through. And what happened? The receiver root suddenly had this burst of cell division, but only in the exact spot where the sender root was aimed. It was as if it had received an invisible signal telling it to grow.
So, once the existence of this light was finally confirmed, the floodgates just flew open. All sorts of theories started popping up, and, well, not all of them were strictly scientific. This is where the line between hard science and spirituality started to get really blurry.
Fast forward to the 1970s. A German biophysicist named Fritz Albert Popp gives the phenomenon a new, catchy name: biophotons. And he didn't just name it. He proposed this grand theory that this wasn't just random light. He believed it was a coherent, almost laser-like communication network that our DNA uses to coordinate everything in the body.
And from there, the idea just exploded into the mainstream. A Russian scientist, Konstantin Korotkov, developed a device that he claimed could actually photograph the human biofield, or what most of us would call an aura. All of a sudden, this wasn't just about cells talking to each other. It was supposedly a tool you could use to diagnose a person's physical, mental, and even spiritual health, all from a picture.
You know, the whole concept of a consciousness field got so big it even expanded beyond living things. I'm sure you've seen this. Masaru Emoto's famous claim that human thoughts and words could change the physical structure of water. Positive thoughts made beautiful ice crystals, negative ones made ugly, chaotic blobs. These ideas became incredibly popular, but you can see how they were pulling the science in a very different direction.
But here's the thing. While all of this was happening, the auras, the conscious water, there was a parallel, much less sensational explanation quietly developing in labs around the world. One that wasn't rooted in consciousness, but in cold, hard chemistry. See, this other group of scientists, let's call them the skeptics, they weren't buying the grand theories about auras and consciousness fields. They suspected the real explanation was something far more straightforward, something rooted in basic chemistry. They believed the light was simply a chemical byproduct of being alive. And the scientific term for this is chemiluminescence. It's just light that's created by a chemical reaction. The crucial point here is that it's not some kind of intentional message. It's more like the faint glowing exhaust coming from the engine of our metabolism as it burns fuel to keep us alive and running. The big question was, could they actually prove it?
So for decades, you had these two competing theories living side by side, the spiritual one and the chemical one. To finally get to the truth, science needed a new tool,
A camera so unbelievably sensitive, it couldn't just detect the light, it could actually see exactly where it was coming from.
And this is where our story comes full circle, right back to where we started with Masaki Kobayashi in Japan. He knew that to settle this mystery once and for all, he couldn't just repeat old experiments. He needed a massive technological leap, something that could finally cut through all the noise and give him a crystal clear picture.
And this was his solution. A super-cooled CCD camera. I mean, this thing was chilled to minus 120 degrees Celsius just to eliminate any interference from heat. It was a total game changer. For the very first time, we had a tool that was sensitive enough to pinpoint single photons in space and time, creating a real-time map of the glow as it happened.
So with this incredible new camera, Kobayashi performed the decisive experiment. His team watched a live rat's brain, and they tracked everything at once: its electrical activity, how much oxygen it was using, and the photon emissions. The result was just unmistakable. Whenever the brain's activity and metabolism went up, the glow got brighter. The link was direct, it was measurable, it was undeniable.
So, there it was. The light wasn't some message from a universal consciousness, it was a chemical echo. The experiment had pinpointed the cause, and in doing so, it unlocked a truth that had far more powerful, real-world medical implications than anyone had ever expected. The actual culprit was something called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short. Basically, these are unstable, super-reactive molecules that are created as waste when our cells make energy from food. You can think of them like tiny sparks flying off a roaring fire. As these little molecules react with stuff around them to become stable again, they release that extra energy as a tiny flash of light, a single photon. And here is why this boring chemical explanation matters so much. Cancer cells have this frantic, out-of-control metabolism, and that means they produce way more of these ROS molecules. The result? They glow up to 4.7 times brighter than healthy cells. This opens up this incredible possibility of spotting cancer at its absolute earliest stages, maybe even before a tumor has a chance to form. But here's a fascinating twist. ROS isn't just a bad guy. In the right amounts, it's also a crucial signaling molecule our bodies use for really important things, like our immune response, or even building muscle after a tough workout. So, in a weird way, that old scientist Guruich was right. The process behind the light is a form of communication. It's just a chemical one, not a mystical one.
So, in the end, the human glow isn't the soul leaving the body or some cosmic life force. It's actually something just as profound. It's a visible, real-time echo of the metabolic fire that makes us alive. We are literally physically glowing with the energy of life itself. Isn't it amazing? The seemingly boring scientific truth that the glow is just a chemical byproduct turned out to hold way more power to actually save human lives than the myth of the soul ever did. And it really makes you wonder, right? What other mysteries that seem magical to us today are just waiting for the right tool, the right experiment, to reveal a scientific truth that's even more amazing?